welcome back to the show. As you see, we're at Merck Snack Bar. Now, this is a wonderful snack bar. I want to thank the owners for inviting us. I want to thank Michael for linking us up. This is great. We're out in Hamilton. I love Hamilton. Hamilton, to me, growing up, is like where I grew up in Scarborough. Great people, hard workers, black and white. You know what you're going to get with the people from Hamilton. So this is great. Again, Michael, thank you for being on the show today.
My pleasure, Jay. It's good to be here at my local. Welcome.
Well, this is great because, this is your local.
It is my local.
So I'm in your backyard. So before we get into your career, tell us about the bar, tell us about your area, tell us about the community.
This bar is owned by a super guy named Mark Baker, and it was actually one of the first places. It was situated next door and had a different name. Mark was cooking there, and my wife and I, when we were looking for a place to buy, we came in here, we had a couple of drinks, and we just checked out the vibe, and we listened to what the people were saying in this community, and we ended up buying 2 streets from here.
Well, I was going to say you're a real good gauge of that because you have been, socializing and interacting with the public, the community, being a musician for decades, for years. So when you say the vibe is great, you got to believe it.
And you could see it happening, and over the time that we've been here, especially with the lockdown and stuff, one of the nicest things that happened here is people who were unemployed, other companies hired their staff to come and work there so they can compensate, help with the money, and help people out. So you really got that community feel going on. It was
That's
awesome.
great. And again, we are live, so we are at Merck Snack Bar, so it is open, so there is people in here drinking and having fun and eating food. Check out the food, great food here.
We're one of them.
There you go, cheers.
We're 2 of them.
Cheers. So again, you're watching Wild Child Records, and we're going to be showcasing part of these segments on Bell 5 TV and Your TV Cogeco. So I really want to thank our platform associates and partners, Bell and Cogeco, the people in the States. But let's get to Michael. So Michael, take us all the way back, and what we'll do is we'll sort of do a past, present, future. I'll jump in, play a little music in between.
Right on.
So now I know you grew up in Montreal.
I did.
So tell us a little bit about the different vibes of Montreal and Toronto, or Ontario.
Well, I moved to Toronto in 1985.
Okay.
My wife at the time, we came here to actually pursue an acting career. And one of the things I noticed right off the bat was, in Montreal, there's a saying we have in Montreal, people work to live. And in Toronto, people live to work. And that's one of the things I noticed, is that the work mentality in Toronto, everything was about money and dollars and cents, and not as much about personal happiness or growth in terms of oneself. And that's something that I miss from Montreal.
I was going to say, how did that affect you?
Well, I didn't pursue the acting career, that's for sure.
Okay.
I started to go to my first love, which was always music from the time I was 2 years old. And I picked up a guitar a little more. I was in bands in Montreal, but never really doing too much.
Okay.
So once I was here doing that, I started writing some songs and trying to shop them around and do whatever, play the coffee houses in Toronto. I lived in the beaches for a long time near Queen Street down there, and that kind of reminded me a little bit of the college town in St. Anne de Bellevue, where I went to John Abbott College, and on the island of Montreal, but just in the West End. And the beaches kind of remind me of that. So,
okay.
I enjoyed that. Yeah, in Toronto. So I enjoyed the community feel that was there. It's all about community, isn't it?
I love Montreal.
That's what I like about here. That's what I liked about the beaches. And Montreal, I had the same thing as a kid, that community feel.
I think Montreal's a great city, great people, great history.
Yeah.
Too bad about the Canadians, but they're...
Yeah, no.
But, I'm used to it. As a Leaf fan, I'm used to it. I've seen it before. So
it's hard being a Leaf fan.
We could use a couple of those guys. We could use
I'm not a Habs fan.
No?
Oh, no.
Oh, okay. There you go. So let's move it ahead. And I know you're like a triple threat. Like you play multiple instruments. You're a writer. You do a Tom Jones cover, which we're getting to a little bit. Tell us the inspiration behind it all. Like, where did it start, and then we can just jump forward?
Well, interestingly, I'm going to start with the Tom Jones piece.
Okay.
Because that's kind of how it all started with me. I was the youngest of 4 kids, and when I was 2 years old, my siblings would be at school, and I was at home with my mom, and she was a Tom Jones fan, and she'd play the records, and I'd have the records there. So before I could even read, my mom would say, Mikey, can you go play It's Not Unusual? And I would go through the records. I knew which record it was on. I knew where to put the needle, whatever song. Green Grass, A Home, Delilah, it didn't matter. I knew where the song was. I would put the needle down, and I was just in love with Tom Jones.
Now, would you sing it? Like, would you sing?
So my father, who was
Yeah.
a nightclub owner, had a little tuxedo made for me.
Wow.
And red lining. I got the purple here. I had the red lining, a little tuxedo, and I would go off into his nightclubs or anywhere, and I would grab a spoon or whatever, and I would do the Tom Jones stuff.
So it's in the family.
It was something I loved doing, and you know, jump ahead.
Yeah.
You know, when I turned 50, here I was with the good fortune of knowing so many awesome musicians. I had this cockamamie idea to say, man, let's bring the Tom Jones show back.
Really?
So I turned around and put that show together, and the musicians loved it.
How serendipity is that, eh?
It was awesome.
Like,
it
so
was
how-
full circle.
How long would the span be when you?
Oh, well,
like 30 years?
More than that. Probably 45 years. I mean, I did Tom Jones as a kid from the time I was maybe 2 to 5 years old.
Okay.
And then obviously didn't do it, and you know, you do what little kids do. I played hockey. I did whatever else. And then got into the music, did the music scene. I never thought once about doing.
Do you
the
remember
Tom
how that
Jones
came
again.
back to you? Like, how did that come back to you?
Well, I think it was just the fact that you know, Tom Jones got cool again.
Yeah.
You know, and so it kind of, you started to see
Carlton,
more.
right? Carlton. Carlton. I mean, he brought back Tom Jones.
Well, he did bring back that dance.
Yeah. Didn't he?
So, you know, the thing is, Tom Jones' career, he's always had this great voice, and you know, when he started to kind of become cool again, there were more clips being shown, and there was things YouTube was bringing it back. So I was able to start appreciating, first of all, the guy's voice and how amazing it was, and realizing that I could pull it off.
And he was also one of the original studs.
He
Wasn't he, Tom?
Well, he was an original stud.
He was
you
an
know?
original.
I mean,
My
he
mom
was a
loved
poster
him.
boy for sure. You
The
know.
panties on the stage. You
Well,
know?
he hated that.
Yeah, he did. I
He
know,
did not
but-
like that.
But it was pretty wild. Like, he was so talented. And I don't know much about Tom. I'm sure you know a whole lot, everything about Tom. But I know he was his own man too, was he not? He didn't really like to go along if he didn't agree a little bit.
He had a little bit of that, but you know, at the same time, he also felt very fortunate to come from the poverty that he came from and to have the life that he had. So he never did anything that would
Jeopardize his career.
his career.
Was he
would
Welsh
always-
or Wales or something?
He was Welsh.
Welsh,
from
right?
a small town, a mining town in Wales. And so it's funny you talk about the panties. You know, when he was young, he was singing in men's clubs. Women weren't allowed in the clubs, so he'd be singing in these men's clubs. And he said, you know, I was used to people throwing all kinds of stuff. You know, he was 16, 17 years old, and he said the men in there would get drunk, fights would happen, chairs would be thrown, whatever else. He said he could deal with any of that stuff. But when women started throwing panties at him, he said, I had no idea what
Really?
to do about that.
And I think, now I might be mistaken, but I know there was a supermodel back in the 70s that was also from Wales or Welsh. And I think it was Raquel Welch. I think they had something going on back in the day.
Well, they certainly may have.
Yeah,
I think that
so.
Tom had something going on
Well,
with a few
Raquel,
gals.
I mean, I think you couldn't pick a better good-looking guy than Tom Jones and a better-looking girl than Raquel Welch.
They,
right?
I'm sure that they had some good times.
Speaking of Tom Jones, I'm going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I'm going to put Michael on the spot and get him to play a little bit of Tom for us.
Hey!
How's that? Is that
No
okay?
problem. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, stay tuned. What we have right now in the studio, well, actually, a Merck Snack Bar out in Hamilton. We're here with musician Michael Theodore. You're watching the Disability Channel, Wild Child Records. We'll be right back.